Hey family. So today I'm going to be talking or continuing the conversation around jealous black mothers and wounded daughters. Do you have a jealous mother? Do you have a difficult relationship with your mother where you feel like you can't be yourself because you're scared that you're going to be upsetting her? Well, that's what we are going to be talking about today. This is going to be a continuation of the previous podcast that I did where I talked about how does the jealousy show up? How does the jealousy show up in the mother-daughter relationship? What has been the impact on the daughter and why does this happen? That was the first part. So today we are going to be talking about solutions. We're going to be talking about how it actually shows up in daughters in their work and stuff like that. So if this is something that you experience that you find it very, very difficult to talk about, very difficult to own, then this podcast is for you. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is June Allen. I am a trauma therapist. I am the therapist. I'm a business coach and soon to be author and also a retreat facilitator. So today's session is also inspired by just a little bit of housekeeping. Is also inspired by a workshop that I'm going to be doing, or it's actually an experience, a day experience that I'm going to be doing on the 27th of June. It's called The Mother Wound and Your Money, and we are going to be looking at how the mother wound really impacts your ability to show up at work. So if you're a healer, if you're a therapist, if you're a wellness practitioner, and you've got your own business and you're really struggling with visibility and haven't really made that connection between your mother wound and how you show up in your business, then this experience is for you. There's going to be 2 days. There's obviously the 27th of June, which is going to be a full day. And then a couple of weeks after that, there's going to be like a follow-up session to give you an opportunity to talk about, what's happened after the experience, how you've been able to integrate what you've learned and just where you're at and stuff like that. It's just an opportunity for you to check in. So if you're interested in joining me for the Mother Wound and Your Money experience, you can click the link in my bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. So I have three requests, okay? Just when it comes to the stuff that I'm going to be talking about today. If there's stuff that resonates with you and you've got any questions about anything that I've said in this podcast, then you can email me info@yardofgreatness.com. Okay. You also have to remember that this is not a substitute for therapy. So I am a therapist, but I'm not your therapist. Okay. Unless you're already working with me already. If you would like to work with me, if you're looking for a therapist, if you're looking for a business coach, any of that, again, you can find all of the details if you go to heal.juneallen.net about how you can work with me. Okay. So let's get into the content. So today, as I said before, we're continuing the conversation from my previous podcast, part one, where I talked about jealous mothers and wounded daughters. So in part one, um, I just want to say as well before I kind of get into it that these two podcasts are not about trying to shame black mothers, okay? This is really about us being able to understand as a community how the patterns get internalized and passed down generation to generation and how it's showing up in the daughters' lives now and what we can do about it. It's one thing to talk about systemic oppression and these toxic systems. We know the systems are toxic, but what we also have to be honest about is how those systems have invaded our families' psyches and how we continue to play out the toxicity that was embedded in our families and how they continue to play out. If we can't be honest about the things that are going on in our families that are still hurting us, okay, because of the systemic stuff, then we're not going to grow and we're not going to heal. So that's my angle on all of this. It's not about bashing anybody or shaming anybody. It's about being honest. It's about creating space for you to be honest with yourself about your pain and about what happens in families when things are not healed. And then it's about giving yourself, autonomy and giving you an invitation to really to start to break those patterns and to do something different. So this is all about healing. This is all about your healing at the end of the day. Okay. So, as I was saying before, in the previous podcast, I talked about how does jealousy show up in the mother-daughter relationship when the mother's jealous of the daughter. Um, We talked about what is the impact on the daughter. You know, what do those how does the wounding, what does the wounding look like in daughters? Okay, when she has a jealous mother. And we also talked about why the mother behaves that way. What types of things are going on in the mother's life for her to kind of behave that way towards her daughter. Okay, so if you haven't watched it or you haven't listened to it, there's video and audio. You can watch it on all streaming platforms, and it's on my YouTube channel. It's on Spotify. It's on, yeah, any streaming platform. It should be on there. Okay, so go back and listen to that if you want to get the you know the if you want to understand those three parts that I talked about before. So today is really going to be about how does your mum envying you, how does that impact how you show up at work? Okay. How does it impact how you show up at work? And then we're going to talk about some healing pathways and how, how I work with clients around these types of things. Okay. So some of the ways that it shows up at work, okay, is that you're undercharging. Okay. You already have low self-esteem. Okay, a lot of times you're going to have a lot of low self-esteem because of the mother-daughter relationship, the fact that she envies you. You don't feel that you deserve what you deserve. So you undercharge in your business. Okay, you undercharge, even though it's not serving you, it's almost like it's a people pleasing reflex as well. It's like, if I'm going to have a relationship with this client, if I'm going to have a professional connection to this client and I'm going to serve this client, then, I don't want to be too big. I don't want to be too powerful. I don't want to be too brilliant in what I'm doing. So I'm going to undercharge so that I can maintain that professional relationship with that client. And, even if it's at the detriment to your own needs, you're so used to getting scraps from your mum that what's happening now is that you're starting to accept scraps from clients. You've set things up in a way that you're not really thinking about what you need in terms of what's sustainable for you. You're thinking about, okay, how can I please this client in a way that's going to make them work with you, even though it's a detriment to your own needs. Okay, so undercharging is a huge one. So I do talk about that in a lot more detail in the Motherhood and Your Money experience, about how the under earning shows up for specifically for for Black women, melanated women. How does that stuff show up? It's really, really difficult and really, really painful how it shows up. But we go into all of that in a lot more detail. Okay, so the next way that it shows up in terms of your work is hiding. You hide online. You hide online. Your protective parts are so frightened. They're terrified by the idea of being visible, showing up, being yourself, that what ends up happening is that you just don't want to be visible. You will do the bare minimum when it comes to marketing so that you don't have to be visible. I hear this conversation all the time. All the time. A lot of Black people, they do not want to be visible. They don't want to go online. They don't want to create videos. They don't want to create content. They don't want to show their face because they're so terrified of being visible, because visibility has been dangerous historically. And if you've got those childhood wounds, if you've got that mother wound that's jealous of you, that's saying, well, you can't be too big for your britches, who do you think you are? If you're having all of those internal conversations because your mother put them there, it's going to be hard for you to show up. It's going to be hard for you to be visible, because that critic is always gonna make you feel less than. So it's going to be really difficult for you to show up and be yourself and be confident in who you are and be confident in your gifts. Because if your mum is not willing to accept who you are and let you stand in your power, you're not going to let yourself do that, because it's a pattern that you've had to learn in order to survive. In order to survive the relationship, you've had to keep yourself small. So that's going to continue in terms of your work. So hiding online, not doing any marketing, feeling afraid of doing the marketing, doing the bare minimum, all this, not showing your face, not using your voice, not feeling confident in your gift. These are all ways that hiding is going to show up. And it's a protective output. It's a safety thing. You're trying to keep yourself safe, but that's not really going to benefit your business. Your business is not going to grow. There are so many things at the moment that's going on in the world, and visibility is an important part of building your brand. It's an important part of connecting with your business. Not connecting with your business, well, connecting with your business, yes, but connecting with your clients more importantly. If your clients don't have some sort of relationship with you online, then why would they trust you? You know, especially if you're a wellness practitioner, it's a relationship. If you're a therapist, if you're a body, you know, if you do body work, if you do any of that stuff, it's a relationship. Okay, it's a relationship. And if in order to have a relationship with somebody, with your clients, you need to be visible. You need to be able to have a conversation. Your clients need to be able to trust you. And if they can't see you, if they don't understand who you are, then how are they going to trust you? How are they going to come and trust you to actually work with them if they can't see you, if they don't understand who you are? You know what? And there are some businesses that work on word of mouth and all that. And I'm not talking about that specifically. Yes, it's going to work for some businesses. You know, yes, there are going to be businesses that are going to work through through word of mouth and stuff like that. But ultimately, the market is so busy. There's so much noise, okay, online. There was so much noise from businesses trying to get people's attention. And I'm not saying that you do this compulsively because I'm saying I used to do it back in the day, but I'm not doing my connection work, my marketing work in a compulsive way anymore. I'm doing it in a more measured way. I'm doing it in a more measured way. I'm doing it in a more mindful way so that I'm not burning out. I'm not crashing out over over anything. What I'm doing is I'm thinking about, okay, rather than the conversation being, how can I earn more in my business? Which is, it's not that energy that I'm coming with. I'm coming with, how can I serve my community right now? What do my community need at the moment? What is going to serve my community right now? Everything else is a byproduct of that question, because your clients need to be able to trust you. They need to be able to understand who you are. They need to be able to know something. They need to be able to understand you. You have to, yeah, there's an element of you having to reveal yourself as a therapist, or as a wellness practitioner. Who are you as a person? Do they believe in what you present to the world about who you are? And I think this is a really important conversation, because I think what can happen is that a lot of people that have got their own businesses, they tend to focus a lot on the product that or the service that they're actually presenting to the world. And yes, that's an important part of it. But ultimately, if people want to work with you, okay, they want to work with people. They want to work with people. People buy people. People invest in other people. So yes, your product or service is an important part of it. But if that person doesn't trust you, if they don't understand who you are, if they can't see you to get a sense of who you are as a person, they need to be able to. You need to be able to pass the vibe check, I think is what I'm trying to say. What's the vibe? You know, and this is the difference between whether clients are going to come and work with you or go and work with somebody else. They need to be able to understand who you are. And to this day, I still get people inboxing me saying, "Oh my gosh, I went onto your YouTube channel or I went onto your website and I binge watched loads of your videos. I understand where you're coming from. I really like what you're about. I understand the type of therapy that you do, why you work the way that you work, how you work specifically with Black people, and I want to work with you because the clarity is there about what I do, why I do it, how I do it. Okay, and this builds the relationship. This is why I do the podcast as well. This is why I do the pod because it's about building a relationship with people. So if you're struggling, okay, if you're struggling with visibility, if you're struggling with your marketing, if you have a difficult relationship with your mum, if your mum is jealous of you, if you think your mum's jealous of you, or you feel scared to be yourself around your mum, think about how that connects to you being yourself as a business owner, as a therapist, as a practitioner. All of these things are important. There's a link there that maybe you're missing that you need to unpack. Okay, that's an important part of your identity as a wellness practitioner and about how you present yourself to the world. This is about your relationship to your clients. How are you building that relationship with your clients? And how is that relationship with your mom, her jealousy? How is that keeping you small, even when you're showing up at work? How is that impacting how you show up at work? If what I'm saying to you makes sense, okay, and you want to do some more deeper work around this, click the link in my bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. The mother wound and your money experience is going to be an experience for you to go deeper in this topic and for you to really understand what this means for you personally. You'll have an opportunity to work through different things. Obviously, there'll be Q&A, there'll be opportunities for you to explore this in so much more depth, and you'll go home not just with more understanding, but with tools about how you can work through this in a lot more depth, you know? So yeah, it's really, really, really important. It's really, really important if you're a wellness practitioner. Okay. The other thing that's really important that how it shows up at work is, there might be guilt around you earning more than your family. There might be guilt around, you being able to earn more money than your mum. Okay. There might be silent contract there. There might be a silent contract there where you're telling yourself that you can't earn or you can't be more prosperous or you can't be more healthy, you can't be more well, you can't be more emotionally healthy than your mum because there's always that thing in the background that's like if I'm do something that she might perceive as being better than her somehow, then there's going to be the pain around the threat that you're going to lose that relationship, so you have to keep yourself small in order to stay in the relationship, in order to stay attached. Okay, so that is really important for you to think about. So, this is also going to show up as your inability to receive praise at work, to receive wealth because of this silent contract. Okay, this silent contract where you're preventing yourself from receiving praise. You're preventing yourself from receiving wealth because the bottom line is you need to stay in relationship. That part of you is trying to help you to stay in relationship with your mum, regardless of the impact of it. And the last thing that I'll share about this part of the podcast is that you may actually fear being in female groups. I think I did mention this briefly in part one. This whole thing around black women finding it very difficult to trust other black women. This is why collaboration can be difficult. This is why working with other black women can be difficult because of that wound, because of that mother wound, that receiving wound that is still being activated whenever you're in the presence of somebody that you may well be projecting. You may be making assumptions about that person, but that anxiety around how that other black woman in the group, or you might be working with them one on one or whatever, how that relationship is being perceived is going to be activating for you if you're not aware of how your mother wound is impacting how you show up at work. One of the questions I always ask my clients, whether it's coaching clients or therapy clients or whoever, is how do they feel about working with me? How do they actually feel about working with me? And how, if they have got mother wounds and stuff like that, how does that impact? Because it's going to show up. There may well be times that it's going to show up some type of way, but the reason why I vocalize it and externalize it is because if we can start to have that dialogue, okay, if we can take it out of the unconscious and bring it into the conscious, then if it does show up, okay, if it does show up, then it's easier to have the conversation about it. It's easier to have the conversation about it. But when it's unconscious, it's going to be playing out and bleeding into how you show up at work. So it's going to show up around you not being able to collaborate with other black women. It's going to show up as mistrust in collaborating with other black women. It's going to show up with you maybe keeping yourself small. It's going to show up as you maybe freezing or fawning, freezing and fawning. These are trauma responses. You're keeping yourself, your body doesn't want to interact with other black women because your system remembers an imprint that other black women, i.e. your mother, is unsafe. So therefore, any other black women are also unsafe. You're going to be very hyper vigilant around that. Okay. So think about these things. Think about how your mother wound is showing up when you're doing your work. And if any of these things resonate for you, because a lot of people, like whenever I bring up this topic to people, I can see the penny drop, and the shock in their face because they're just not used to making that connection between the two. So that's why this conversation is so important because, without realizing these mother wounds are playing out, they're bleeding into how you show up. They're stopping you from really standing in your power because that stuff is going on in the background and it's not being dealt with. You're not having those honest conversations about it, and those conversations are important. Yeah, those conversations are important. So let's talk about healing pathways. Okay, let's talk about healing pathways, and I'll share some of the stuff that I do when I'm working with clients and stuff as well. So first and foremost, you have to grieve the mother that you didn't have. Okay, you have to grieve the fact that your mother is not safe. She's not, you don't feel safe around her. If you can't be your true self around your mum, if you have to censor yourself, if you have to keep quiet, if you have to think about, oh, I don't really want to say this, if you have to do those things, okay, there is going to be grief around the parts of you that had to keep small in order to stay in that relationship. So there's grief work that's gonna need to happen. So this is, in therapy, again, like I was just saying before, I will have those conversations with clients around how they feel about working with me, like what comes up for them when they think about working with me, and how might their relationship with their mother impact how they work with me. Those types of questions are the types of things that I will explore with clients, like how they feel about it, what comes up, what are they afraid that, what are they afraid might happen in my relationship with them that might be, that might be a projection from how their relationship with their mother is, so we'll talk about those things. um Another important part of the conversation is about reparenting. You're going to have to learn how to reparent the parts of you that are wounded that your mum was not able to reparent. So you're going to have to learn how to empower those parts of you, and it's not, I know that there's a lot of talk about having an inner child. Okay, now for me, there's inner children. It's often plural. I have different children at different ages in my inner system that have different needs and that want different things. And the same probably is going to be for you. There is no one inner child. There's going to be different inner children that have different needs. Okay, so part of the work, part of the healing work, is learning how to rebuild a relationship with those younger parts of yourself, understand what those parts need, and build a really compassionate relationship with them. It might be that you need to work with somebody else. I know that that's what I've done in my own therapy. I've had to work with a therapist that can help me understand, those different parts of myself and help me to also find my inner parent. Sometimes I know that there's a lot of people that end up doing their inner child work before they've actually found the inner parent. And it doesn't work like that. You have to actually, first of all, you have to find your inner parent first, your inner loving mother and your inner loving father. You have to find your inner parents first so that your inner children can feel held by what's happening. If you just kind of start doing work with the inner children too early without finding the inner parent, the inner child's got nothing to attach to. Your inner children need a safe place to be able to be vulnerable and stuff like that. And you often the inner children, they won't come out. They won't reveal themselves. If there isn't a safe space in order for them to reveal themselves and share what's going on for them. This is why therapy can be really powerful. Therapy and coaching with me can be really powerful because what I provide is, I initially provide that reparative space in order for the younger parts to be able to come out. And I will also teach the client how to start reparenting themselves. So I might do it initially, but then I teach the client what reparenting is and how they need to start to reparent their inner children and then they can start doing it for themselves. So I do it first. I guide the client how to find their own inner parent, and then I guide them how to build that relationship with their inner part. So then it then becomes transferred from me onto the client. I hope that makes sense. But that's the point. So then the over time, the client then learns how to care for themselves, and then within depending on the person, depending on the situation, depending on how things are. Sorry, I need to just plug in my, this is the second week I've done this. Okay, I don't want my okay, there it is. I don't want my thing to die, my laptop to die. What was I saying? Yeah, so over time the client will learn how to parent themselves. Okay, and then then they might not need therapy after a while, because what they've done is they've then internalized what I've taught them, and they've learned how to reparent themselves and reparent their inner children, and they're less likely to externalize then their worth on their mother, who can't give it to them. The mother that can't give them the praise, that can't affirm them, that can't tell them that they're gorgeous, the mother that can't hype them up when they're doing well at work, when they're doing the mother that can't do any of those things, the child, the adult child has to grieve that parent that can't give them any of those things, and they're less likely to externalize their worth with their mother if they're reparenting themselves and taking care of those younger parts. Then they also get to decide, the boundaries that they might need to have. It might be that they might decide that actually I'm not having certain types of conversations with my mum. I'm not going to talk to my mum about work. You might decide that you're not going to have those conversations with her because it's become so dangerous in the past, or unsafe for you to have those conversations, because she might shame you or belittle you or say snarky things or whatever it is, that it becomes unsafe for you to have those conversations with her about work. So you might, in understanding your needs and understanding how you reparent your younger selves, and how you take care of yourself, you might decide that you need boundaries around the conversations that you're going to have with your mum. So these are some of the healing pathways that are really, really important for you to not only deal with the relationship with your mum, but also how you're able to show up at work. Okay? How you're able to show up at work. So, being able to have chosen family, or when if you're at work, having mirrors, having people in the workplace, or mentors or coaches or whatever it is, having people in your inner circle, not just in terms of your chosen family, but in terms of your work circle, having a work circle that can affirm you, okay, is really important as well. You need to be seen by people and held by other people who are going to hype you up, who are going to support you in your growth, and be really intentional about being around other people that can inspire you. I'm very intentional about that now. I'm saying no a lot at the moment. Yeah, I'm saying no a lot to people. People will inbox me, ask me this, that, and the other. Are you available for this? And I'm looking for the first thing that comes up for me. I'm thinking about reciprocity. That's the first conversation that I'm thinking about. Is this relationship going to be reciprocal? And if it's not reciprocal, no shade, but it's a no. Because then what you don't want is to get into a situation where you get resentful. You get resentful because I've been in this game a long time. I've been in this game a long time. I've been in 12-step recovery since 2009, and I've been doing this business for it's more than 10 years. I can't remember the exact number, but it's more than 10, a long time. And of course, understandably, if people want support, if people want help with this, that, and the other, of course people are going to want to align with you. And that's, I'm not trying to be shady, or kind of diss people. I get it. Of course you want support, especially if you're struggling with certain things and whatever. I get it. But if I'm looking for, there's a difference between, if somebody is working with you and paying you for a service, that's one thing. But there are those people that will try and extract. There are people that will try and go around and do it sideways and try and extract sideways. And you have to be really boundaried about it, because otherwise you're just going to burn out. It's not sustainable. And you have to protect your gifts. Don't just throw them away. Don't just give them to people. You have to protect your gifts. Okay, you have to protect your gifts. So it's about being around people, being making sure that your circle is reciprocal and that you are getting nourished just as much as you're nourishing others. Okay, that is really, really important. The other thing that's really, really, I think the hardest part about this as well is learning to stop seeking justice, okay, in an unhealed family system. All right. Stop seeking justice inside an unhealed family system. That is something that is so hard to accept because there's conflict between the part of you that wants to stay attached and the part of you that is learning, especially when you've been in this healing journey a long time, you're learning that actually the family system is broken. The family system is harmful. The family system that you're in is just not can't meet your needs. Your family system that you're in, they can't hear you. The family system that you're in can't do repair work. The family system that you're in doesn't want to do repair work. The family system likes being in denial. The family system is just not ready to deal with their trauma. Okay. I'm the only one in my family that's doing this work to this depth, as far as I know. You know, um, and it can be quite really painful and really can be really quite isolating to have that, to be able to sit with that. That's why you need to have chosen family. That's why you need to have chosen family in your personal life and in your professional life, because you need to you know, at the end of the day, we're human beings. We can't do this stuff on our own. You need to be able to do this stuff with other people. But the people that you do this work with, you have to be aligned. You know, you have to be aligned with those people. You have to be able to, again, like it needs to be reciprocal. Otherwise, you're just going to end up in another dynamic where, you know, there's extraction and you're not feeling seen and heard. You need to make sure that you're in a situation where that your needs are being met, that you are being seen. You know, that's a really, really important part of it. Um, yeah, so seeking to stop seeking justice in a system that is you know that is broken, that is wounded, you know, that acceptance is really difficult and it takes time to have acceptance around that. It takes a long time to do that, but it's going to be very difficult for you. You can't heal. Here's the thing about this: you can't heal or grow or be abundant in the same place that actually broke you, that is keeping you small. You can't heal in the same environment. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. So there's sometimes you have to make some really difficult choices. And it doesn't mean to say that you have to, you know, be estranged from your family like I am. You know, it just means that you might need to just firm up your boundary. It's for you to decide. It's for you to decide what feels right for you. But there are options. There are options, and you have to give yourself permission to think about what those options are and take the action gently, slowly, and with others if needs, you know, as appropriate, as you know, with others as appropriate. And when I say about slowly, okay, this I cannot stress this enough. Okay, in therapy we call this titration. Titration is when you do something little and often, because when you're so used to not feeling good about yourself or having goodness when it comes to being in relationship. Okay, if the relationship with your mother is challenging, she's jealous of you, you've got low self-esteem, you've internalized her you know, her thinking about smallness and all the rest of it. When you do start to receive, it can be painful as hell. It can be painful as hell. Okay, so you have to sip on it. When there's a chronic receiving wound through neglect and stuff like that, you have to start learning how to sip on it. To sip how to receive. And I'm talking from experience around this because otherwise it can be too overwhelming. It can be too overwhelming. So this is something else that again that I talk to clients about is getting some clarity on what does sipping look like for that, because it's going to be different for different people. You know, whether it's you're changing your pricing or whether it's visibility or what, you have to sip on those things because otherwise your nervous system is just going to crash out and you're going to end up in a situation where you're overdoing it, you're overstretching your nervous system, and you end up not doing it at all because you've gone too far. You have to learn how to sip on it, sip on the visibility, sip on the receiving. I'll just finish on this actually. One of the most powerful things I do, one of the most powerful practices that I do is a receiving practice. And I practice learning how to receive small things. And I know that the more I learn, I teach my system, I teach my body how to receive really, really small things. It's kind of preparing my nervous system to receive bigger things. So an example of that might be like every morning I go on a walk. Okay, every morning I go for a walk. I walk for about 45 minutes and come back. So that it just helps to regulate my nervous system. Sometimes I do, it's like a walking meditation. Sometimes I listen to music. Sometimes whatever. I do audio journaling. There's so many different things. But sometimes I will just do the walk in silence because then I get to tune in to the earth, to tune into spirit, to tune into my body and just listen to my body. But also when I do that is I allow myself moments to receive, and sometimes that looks like if it's a sunny morning, I'll allow myself to receive the beauty of a sunrise, or I allow myself this, like this morning is a perfect example. Just kind of around the corner where I live, this person's got these rose bushes and the rose heads are huge, absolutely huge. So there was this huge yellow rose head and there's another one that was red as well, and I allowed myself just to receive the beauty. It's one thing to know it's a rose and to go, oh yeah, that's really. But I paused, and not only did I pause and allow myself to just receive the beauty and the wonder of that rose, okay, but I smelt the rose. And it smelt divine. It was so heavenly. I allowed myself just to pour, and I didn't care if people saw me doing it. I just allowed myself just to bend down and just inhale the scent from the rose, and just my body just, oh, my body just loved it. My body just loved it. Okay. So I don't just allow myself to notice those different things, but I actually document those things in my journal. So I'll put in my journal, receiving practice for today is the beautiful rose, the scent of the rose, the sunrise. Maybe, there's a dog that, dog running around that was joyful, whatever it is. But to actually document those things, it starts to rewire your system and rewires your brain to receive goodness, to start to trust goodness, that you deserve good things. Okay. And it's been transformative. It's been transformative for me doing that receiving practice. Okay. And I know that the more that I've done that, there are other things that have come into my life as a result of doing that really, really small practice. And people might take for granted, yeah, there's a tree, yeah, there's a rose or whatever. But I'm inviting you into this practice to think about it. Think about the things that happen to you on a daily basis. That person that gave you that extra long hug, the person that gave you a compliment at work, or the person that said that you were really good at what you do, or whatever it is, that person that left a really nice little comment underneath your social media post saying thank you for the work that you do, or whatever it is. Document all of those things. Start documenting them because there is so much shite going on in the world. There is so much pain going on in the world. I'm finding that it creates a really nice balance between the reality of the struggle that's going on in the world, but also appreciating the simple things. And it does something to your body, it does something to your system, it does something to your relationship to life that is so powerful, and it will change the relationship that you have with yourself. It will change the relationship that you have with yourself, and you're taking more ownership of your life and not externalizing your worth again to somebody, i.e. your mother, who can't give it to you for whatever reason. You're taking more autonomy over your life and you're starting to trust life in a different way. So I'd really, really encourage you to do that, to do that receiving practice if you really want to, if you really want to change your relationship to receiving. That's one of the simplest things that you can do in terms of healing your receiving wound. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me today. I actually quite really enjoyed doing that, doing this session today. If you resonate with some of the stuff that I talked about today, if you want to start to do the deeper work, you can join me on the 27th of June for the Mother Wound and Your Money experience. Okay, it's online. Click the link in my bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. You don't have to do this stuff alone. Okay, you don't have to do this stuff alone. There is support. Okay, and you don't have to allow your mother wound to dictate what your future looks like when it comes to abundance, when it comes to prosperity, when it comes to reclaiming your autonomy over your body, over your power. You are powerful. You just need to reconnect to it. You just need to reconnect to it. Your inner children deserve to be loved. Okay. Your inner children deserve love. You deserve to be seen. This is not about your capability. You're capable of doing amazing things. Your business is doing amazing things. But there are parts of you that are still trying to protect you from being seen because your mother wound is still humming in the background. And you can make a change. You can choose differently. You can choose differently. Okay. If you've got any questions about anything that I've shared today, you can email me info@yardofgreatness.com. If you know somebody that might benefit from today's session, please share it with them. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye bye now.